You probably don't want to be the most affordable or the cheapest photographer in your area. Mainly because being cheap means that you are probably not able to charge what you're worth. And if you're unable to charge what you're worth, then you won't be able to deliver quality content. Because let's face it, competitive pricing for the long term is just a race to the bottom. So what I mean by a race to the bottom is if there are too many competitors in an area competing for the same client, the only way that you are going to be able to get that client is if you lower your prices. Basically, it's a bidding war for who can offer the cheapest value for the product that they're delivering. And yeah, that's basically what a race to the bottom is. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Industry-wide, freelancing websites such as Fiverr is something that comes to mind when I talk about a platform that is a race to the bottom. I remember when I started out thinking, okay, I'm gonna apply to Fiverr and I'm gonna put up all my work there, or I'm gonna put up my prices there and I'm gonna get bookings and that type of thing. Upon initial inception, a freelancing website seems like a great idea because it's a simple and easy way for a freelancer to put themselves out there for a client to find them easily. But the problem is, over a certain period of time, those platforms become saturated. So what ends up happening is that the only way for you to get any work is that you have to be the cheapest of the cheap, which is, if you are trying to build a long-term, profitable and fruitful business, is not the way you may want to go. Also, on a local level, this happens when, if in your area, in your city, in your district, whatever, there's a lot of photographers. So what tends to happen is that a lot of photographers may compete to be the cheapest in order to get the most bookings. Again, I'll give you a quick example. This may happen if a client comes to make a booking and you quote them, let's say $500. They say, no, that's too much. $500 is what you value your work at. But since you are trying to compete to get that client, you may opt to lower your price, maybe negotiate it to $350, that type of thing. So that is an example of sort of racing to the bottom, because the race is between you and other photographers in your area that you are competing against to charge the low price. My main issue with this, with competing like this, is that the less you are able to charge, the less you are able to invest, the less you're able to put into delivering your work. So you aren't able to invest as much on lights, you aren't able to invest as much on good equipment because you can't afford to, because you are just going off of trying to get that client at whatever cost that you can. So overall, that affects the quality of your work, and the quality of your work affects your ability to get future clients. It affects your ability to grow your business, because now you become this brand that's known for delivering mediocre or cheap work at a cheap, affordable price. And so overall, delivering low quality products basically shunts or hinders your growth for the long term. Because let's face it, you don't want to be a beginner. You don't want to be where you are now. You don't want to be where you are. You most likely, if you're watching this, you want to grow into this big brand, working big gigs, doing these big productions. You don't want to stay where you are. So being competitive, being cheap, affects that for the long term. Don't get me wrong, there are situations where being cheap or where being competitive works to your advantage, or as a matter of fact is a necessity. Biggest example is if you're starting out. If you decide to buy a camera today and have zero experience, you can't get into the industry and think you're going to start charging thousands with no portfolio, with no experience, no skill. So a good place for you to start off is basically offering your services for free so that you can get experience, or for super cheap, you know, a local business, your local shop, you know, getting started, taking pictures, doing video, whatever it is. So when you are starting out, take on free projects, collaborate with other artists or with other content creators in your area. See how you can collaborate with them, see how you can help them, offer your services up, offer them for free, offer them for cheap, build your portfolio. Once you have a decent portfolio, once you are confident enough, that's when you might consider starting to get out of being cheap and affordable and taking your business to the next level. So you're probably wondering, okay, cool. So being competitive, being cheap, being affordable is not necessarily the way to go. Then how do you get out of that? What is the actual steps that you should take to get out of that? My biggest advice for being able to come out of being cheap and affordable and being able to charge a premium for your services is actually finding a niche. So by that, finding a niche is basically specializing in a particular style of the service that you are trying to offer. You need to realize this. Clients are willing to pay more for a specialist at a high premium than someone who is more generic for the same service. It's basically the difference between hiring a plumber. It's basically the difference between hiring a plumber and hiring a general handyman to fix your sink. One is more expensive than the other, but which one would you be more willing to pay for? You know, so that's the logic behind it. The more skilled you are, the more you specialize in a particular sector or in a particular niche of your work, the more you can justify charging a premium for your work. So, for example, you may opt to choose to work with a cinematographer to shoot a music video or to shoot an ad over someone who is a generic photographer / videographer. Conversely, you may want to work with a photographer who specializes in studio photography and professional lighting and touching up in their photos over someone who just generically offers photo and video services to provide headshots or professional portraits. You see what I mean? Finding a niche, specializing, and being the leader in that specific niche within your area helps you to justify charging more of a premium that your clients will be willing to actually pay for and not even ask you questions for. Build your portfolio, find a niche, preferably something that you enjoy doing, preferably something that you feel that you are good at, something that you will continuously work on. For example, cinematographer, for example, I may get inquiries from time to time for a person who wants live streaming services. I do not offer live streaming services, and I won't just because I may want to get that booking, start scrambling around and start doing a half-assed job because I want to get paid for live streaming services. I know a guy who does professional live streaming services. He's got the whole doohickey with the doohickey and the yabo. That's the point. Similarly, from time to time, I do get inquiries for people who get photography done. So generally, how that may go, a person will ask me if I have a studio with a backdrop. Immediately when a person asks immediately when a person asks for something like that, I refer them to someone else. I know people who specialize in that type of photography, where you will get your portrait done and then you get your images touched up, that type of thing. I don't do that, and I won't take that gig just so that I can put together a half-assed thing just for the sake of taking the gig. Photography, for example, anything that's outdoors, events, weddings, that type of thing, no problem. I'll even recommend locations. Yeah, well, that's something I'm more akin to. That's what I mean. So you'll start getting to a point where you don't just say yes to every single gig that comes up just for the sake of saying yes to every single gig that comes up because you're trying to get paid. And you will rather start being able to work on gigs that you're passionate about and gigs that you're skilled to do. So yeah, I think that's about it, so try not to race to the bottom. If you're starting out, do whatever you can, take whatever work you can. Basically, if you're starting out, you're a beginner, you're basically doing the equivalent of taking shit, throwing it, and seeing what sticks. Whatever sticks, whatever you're good at, whatever people like you for, take it from there. Specialize, find a niche, be the premium, and yeah. Anyways, we'll see you guys on the next one. Ciao.